Hi there, welcome to the Raven's Call. I am Eric Wordweaver Sjerven, Gothi of the Redgar folk here in East Texas, and I'd like to welcome you to the show. This is obviously one where I ramble on about different heathen-related subjects. It just depends on what catches my fancy, catches my eye at the time. So, today's episode is going to be a viewer request. I had an individual on my YouTube channel, I actually had several individuals on my YouTube channel, ask me for a little bit more of the spiritual/esoteric side of things, because I do focus a lot on the cultural side of things in the videos. I focus a lot on the religious side of things in the videos, and part of that is because that's my role within the tribe as Gothi of the tribe. I'm dealing with the administrative aspects of the cultural side of things. I'm also dealing heavily with the religious side of things, with the worship of the gods and goddesses, building ritual, things like that. And let me explain to something that I think will help kind of put things into perspective for you guys. Spiritual oriented videos, which I'm going to do some of, this is one of them, they're a little bit more difficult to do because there's a lot of these things that are a little more difficult to codify and to put into video. Plus, here's the deal about spirituality, okay? I do separate spirituality from religion. The two are not the same. When I'm dealing with anything dealing with the gods and goddesses, that is the religious side of things, because religion to me is indeed the interaction of the profane and the sacred. Religion's not a dirty word. That's something I'm going to come back to later. But the spiritual side of things is dealing with the spirit-oriented aspects of Midgard in the profane world. It exists here. Those are going to be your things like magic workings, working with the Vatir, working with the ancestors, divinatory types of things. And I'll get into some of that. I do rune readings, I do some sign interpretation, I do all kinds of stuff, which I'm going to touch some on in this video, which I will also segue into full videos later on. Everybody and their dog has done a rune video, a rune series, so I haven't really delved off into that yet, but it's something I would entertain the possibility of doing in the future, only if it interests you guys. And again, here's the deal, okay, back to my point. Spirituality in some of these practices are very, very personal. These are things that are individualized and they're very culture specific. So, and I specify culture specific because every tribe has their own culture, all right? There's not a greater heathen metaculture. I don't believe in metacultures. I believe in culture. And so there is the culture of Redgar, which is my tribe, just as there's the culture of a lot of other tribes whom I'm not going to put on blast on the channel because I don't know if they want me to put their names out there. But there's some great folks whom I absolutely love and have had some great dealings with in the past, but they do things differently than we do and will look at things differently than we do. Plus, you've got some individuals who on Trollhem, the internet, home of the trolls, on Trollhem that delight in tearing people apart for their spirituality. And so that makes it riskier for somebody to put a video out there or an article out there regarding any kind of spiritual stuff. Now, you will still see people who put it out there and they're taking a risk. They're putting a piece of themselves out there. And it's real easy to go, man, this guy's a crackpot. I don't know where he's coming from and all this. And to be quite honest, I wanted to wait to get into some of my spiritual things because I do think that I'm going to lose some viewers. Maybe not necessarily lose viewers, but yeah, this is going to be the point where people are like, okay, this guy's crazy. Why am I following him? I don't want to listen to this kind of crap when all of his other information has been fantastic. At least I hope so. I've got like 425, 426 followers at the time of this recording. So I'm going to put just a little piece of myself out there for you guys. I'm going to let you guys see a little bit of how I think about things. And then I'm going to delve more into some of the spiritual side of things as we go along. We're at 40 some odd videos at this point. We're nearing on that 50 mark. I decided if I'm going to do something special for episode 50 or what. We'll see. But this one in particular is a request that has come to me from viewers on my YouTube channel and from the Facebook page, which is Word-Weaver Productions. If you're not on that yet, check it out. And this particular question is something that came in a specific conversation. We're talking about blot, we're talking about sacrifice, we're talking about that kind of a ritual, feigning. And this individual asked me specifically, how do I know when an offering has been accepted? And that is an extremely difficult question to answer over a comment on YouTube, okay? It's not enough space for me really to expand on it. I could write an entire article on it. I could do a video on it, which is what I've obviously chosen to do. But honestly, the best possible thing is to be there and talk with somebody in the midst of a ritual going on, in the aftermath of a ritual, and be able to say, well, this is how we know this was accepted. This is what we look for. It's a practical application kind of thing. Plus, it's a very individualized thing. People are going to go about doing this differently, okay? I have seen more designs and layouts for ritual than I can even count from different people from different walks of life. You've got those that are more on the neo-pagan side of things that still incorporate a lot of Wiccan elements into their ritual. You'll hear a lot of those referred to as Wicked-True. You will find some that mix Druidic traditions with their heathenry, which is an interesting thing. Not something I have a whole lot of experience with, but I do know some tribes that do specifically that, and they come up with some very, very them-specific rituals, which seem pretty cool and pretty effective in the long run. But it's something that I don't think would be replicated well by someone outside of that culture. So within the culture of my tribe, this is kind of how we go about things, and it's really the only thing that I'm an authority on and can speak on is how we do things. So keep in mind some of this gets a little out there in how we do things, and it's what we call the woo-woo stuff, all right? This is the immaterial stuff. This is where we get into subjects that don't easily codify and that don't have a simple system, okay? So how do you know when an offering has been accepted? Well, there's a number of different ways that you can go about it. And it's going to depend on your particular culture and your particular leanings. Different people are better at different things when it comes to the spiritual side of heathenry. There are, just like anybody is, like if you go out to a track and field meet, you're going to find people who are fast, you're going to find people who are strong, you're going to find people who are accurate with thrown or projectile weapons. This is the way it is with everything. Certain individuals are just better at certain things than other individuals are, and they're more naturally drawn to that, so they work those skills more. It feels good to them, so they hone in on that, and that's what they make theirs, and they make it work, and they get better and better and better at it. There's the whole naturally gifted element of it, and then of course there is the element of work, hard work, that goes into developing these particular skills. So let's look at some of the particular skills that can be used to discern whether or not an offering has been accepted. Now, we've talked before about bloat structure. You give offering to the gods and goddesses, or you're going to give offering to the Vatir, you're going to give offering to the ancestors, pardon me, and you're going to put this offering out there, and then you want to know whether or not you're having an effect, whether or not you're actually connecting. And the one thing that I can always come back to is you're just going to know, okay? You're going to know. And everybody wants me to give them the specific, well, how do you know? Here's the thing, it doesn't boil down easily. So the first of the skills that we're going to look at is going to be that of divination, okay? I know some groups, and this isn't exactly how I do it, not exactly anyway. I know some groups who will, as a part of their ritual, work in rune readings or seidh work that is oracular in nature, divinatory in nature. And the goal in that divination is to try and communicate with the entity to whom you are sacrificing, to discern whether or not they are pleased with your offering and what you're going to do to up the ante so that they will be pleased with it, that kind of thing. So I've known a number of individuals who have worked in like tarot card readings. Tarot card is not something that is aesthetically tied to heathenry, but it is a divinatory tool. And the thing about divination is that divination is the use of the inner mind, the inner psyche, the connection of the soul through Fera and through the Odr, the connection to the gods and goddesses, to read the patterns of weird and to kind of hone in on these energies and be able to see where things likely will go, get a read on things, And tarot, just like anything else, is just a tool that you can use to do that. So ultimately speaking, I say that it's not unheathen to use tarot. It's neither here nor there. It's an individual cultic practice kind of thing. And that's something that the culture of the individual, if it works for you, it works for you. If you're good at that, you're good at that. And that's something that you can use to see whether or not your offering is met with a positive or negative reaction. So I know some individuals that use tarot reading. I've known some that more on the Wiccan side of things that have used dowsing and things like that. But there's also oracular work such as fire gazing, and I've seen some that have used scrying techniques to be able to discern whether or not their offering has been accepted. These are not the way I go about it, so that's not what I'm going to focus on heavily. Okay. What I am going to focus on is a different aspect, but before we get to that, runes. This is the probably most heathen aesthetic divinatory element. And again, I will break down runes in a different video if we want to. You guys feedback, let me know whether or not you want to. Jump in the comments right now and say, yes, indeed, I want a rune video. Or, dude, everybody does rune videos. Keep doing this other stuff because nobody else is doing this. Okay? So, I've known some individual that will do rune drawings to discern whether or not an offering has been accepted. And so, that is one of the things I like about the runes as a divinatory tool is that they're more organic and raw in how it's done. Tarot itself is very codified. It's very systematic. Every card means a specific thing, and there's not a whole lot of wibbly wobbly elements to it. Runes are primal. The symbolism behind the runes, how well you are connected with the runes. There's a primal element to it. There's a raw, organic element, and it flows differently. And so I like the use of runes in divinatory purposes, even though I know that historically speaking, there's not a lot of evidence that the runes were used for divinatory purposes the way that we use them now. It seems to be something of a modern construct, but that doesn't invalidate them as far as being an effective divinatory tool. Okay? Just because they didn't write it down back in the day doesn't mean that it wasn't used that way. Okay, that's one thing. The absence of evidence is not evidence of absence. However, there were some divinatory rites that were recorded back in the day that seemed to go a different direction from this. There was some mention of rune work with some of the Seidh work, but we're not sure if that was casting lots like a lot of us do now, or if those were runes carved on sticks or bones with specific messages or meanings, because those aspects weren't passed down. The rune poems are pretty much the only thing significantly passed down as far as meanings for the runes and associations therewith. And so we take those and everything else put together with experiences, and personal insight is a huge thing when working with the runes, to develop a system that just works. So as a tool, a divinatory tool, I very much like them. I very much like doing my own rune readings. They take a lot out of me because it's a lot of energy at work. So I don't do them very often. When I do, they mean a lot because there's a huge punch to it because I'm pouring a lot of energy into it. And so the rune reading can be used to discern whether or not an offering has been accepted. So if you pull something such as an Isa rune or a Hagalas rune, or the Hail rune, something with a more negative connotation to it, given the context of what's going on, that might indicate that an offering has been rejected. Looking to the different runes, I mean, this would take forever if I broke down all of the individual runes and what they mean. You can look to the runes and kind of discern yes or no, this has been accepted. But divination and these divinatory tools are all they're doing is honing your natural insights that you already have. The runes themselves aren't giving you the answer. They're not a telephone that you can dial in and speak to the gods and goddesses. They're a tool that allow you to utilize what's already here, your pattern recognition, your insight, that odr. You're tapping into the odr. You're tapping into the fer. You're tapping into these elements of your soul, and you are reading weird about you. And that's what you're doing. And when you read the runes and you get an interpretation that indicates that this offering has been accepted, what you're doing is reading the pattern of weird around you and seeing that this offering has created a positive reaction, and therefore does seem to have been accepted. So this is not something that is going to walk through and beat you on the back of the head and say, yes, we accept the offering. It's not like that. The gods and goddesses aren't going to, yes, the offering has been accepted, or get this crap out of here. What are you doing? So it doesn't work that way. But you can use these tools to kind of get an inkling of that. What's really going to tell the difference in the long run is just straight, how does it play out? But we'll come to that here in the end. So that's the runic aspect. It falls into that oracular, divinatory element of reading the weird about the situation and discerning through divinatory tools whether or not this offering was likely accepted. Now, here we're going to get to the meat and potatoes of how I do things. Okay, this is the side of things that's most difficult to explain because it doesn't easily boil down into a simple thing. There is the simple fact of you just kind of know. You feel it. You feel it in your gut. And people often go, well, what does that feeling feel like? Is it a tingly feeling? Is it a thing in the back of your head that, I don't know how to tell you how to feel it. I can tell you how I feel it. And when I feel it, it's a feeling in my gut. It's a feeling of vibration. It's a feeling of warmth. Just like I can tell you that the shirt that I'm wearing is blue, I cannot describe to you how I perceive blue. I can simply label this sensory input as blue. Okay? Other people will codify it slightly differently, or may see it as green, or they may be colorblind, like one of my good friends who's on here. Colorblind cat, he knows what I'm talking about. Explaining that to somebody who doesn't have the experience of sensory input tied to that particular stimulus loses people. If you're going to try and explain to a colorblind individual what the color green looks like, you're not going to be able to get through to them. But what you can talk about is, okay, this is what I'm calling green, and this is how it feels. This is what it looks like to me. This is how I perceive green. And then they will tell you how they perceive green. And then we come to a common understanding of our different shared experiences of this stimuli. Okay? That's how we're going to have to deal with ritual. This is why, as I said before, one of the best ways you can do it is to talk to somebody who's doing a ritual, who has experience with rituals, and talk to them about how did they feel that a ritual has been successful. So when I do a ritual and it has been successful, there are key things that happen. There's a lot of energy at play in a ritual, and if you're really tapping in and you're really getting there, if you are connecting with the sacred, if you are connecting with the spiritual around you, it's going to have a palpable effect in the world around you. It's like tweaking the matrix, and suddenly you see the cat twice. It's that kind of thing, all right? If you haven't seen the Matrix, that reference makes no sense. But if it does, then you get what I'm talking about, all right? For instance, if I do a ritual to a Odin, and I have done many rituals to Odin over the years, there are specific things I look for because these tend to be Odin's thumbprint on the world. These are things associated with him that he knows we associate with him. And so his presence there in the moment tends to bring these things about. So when I'm in my Ve, my sacred space outside my little grove, and I give offering to Odin, and I know that this is a powerful ritual because I can feel the energy in my odr, I can feel it in my gut, I will look about and I'll listen for specific things, or I'll look for specific things. For instance, out where I am at, we get a lot of crows. And I'll can touch on it at a later time, but I associate all carrion-eating birds with Odin. Carrion-eating birds and canines alike I associate with Odin, whether it be coyotes or wolves, whatever. I tie a lot of those to Odin because of his chthonic psychopomp role of the gallows god, the god of the fallen, god of the slain, the Valfather aspect of things. So I will look for the call of a coyote in the distance, the caw of a crow, the flying overhead of vultures, things that I associate with Odin. Also, I'll listen to the wind, because more often than not, when I do a ritual to Odin, it's a time where Odin is more present in the world, such as during winter nights or during Yule, and the wind is different, and there will come a wind that just feels different, or poignant, heavy, and it'll send a chill up the spine, and you know, just in your soul, you know, that's Odin's touch. That's his thumbprint on the world, and that he's there with you in that moment. At least a piece of him is. His attention is there. Because Odin himself in his full form isn't going to appear to us. The gods are far too grand, far too immense for us to fully comprehend them. They operate outside our bounds of physics and spatial understanding. So I do think the gods can be in multiple places at multiple times. I don't think they can be everywhere. They're not omnipresent or omnipotent or omniscient, but they do have limitations because they are individual gods and goddesses, in my mind, in the way I experience things, in the way I have interacted with them. This is what I've come to learn and know. They are individual presences, individual essences. And so sometimes they're more here, and sometimes they're not as much here. And that's when you know that it has been accepted, is when you see and feel those elements of their presence. So with Odin, I look for winds, I look for the carrion animals, I feel in my gut, I look for rain, I look for turnings in the earth, I look for any kind of elements that I associate with Odin to know that this has been accepted. Now, let's look to another one. Let's look to a goddess this time. During the spring at Livga, we give offerings to Idun, who is the keeper of the golden apples, the bringing of life and the recurrent rebirth of the world around us, coming from the slumber of winter into the full, vibrant spring. I know some will do Ostra, some will do the Anglo-Saxon Easter. We do Idun. And when we offer to Idun during the springtime, we like to give eggs. Now, I know there's a lot of stories about the eggs and whatnot. We'll get into that closer to Livga. But one of the offerings that we give is eggs, in that microcosmic element of the world. Rebirth, birth, life, all within the egg, an encapsulated form. Plus, they make excellent carriers for energies, for ritual purposes, because they are a container with a fluid center, viscous fluid. And so, plus it's raw, primal, creative energies all encapsulated in a little egg. So they're fantastic for ritual purposes. So we will give offering of eggs to Idun, as well as apples and other fruits that are associated with her during that time period. And we'll throw them on the fire in ritual. And when we do that, and I'm speaking to my tribe, speaking to them of Idun, when I am hailing Idun, when I am looking over my people and bestowing her blessings upon my people, the eggs will pop. And I kid you not, every time I do this, this is why we continue to do eggs, because they work and they are accepted. The timing of the pops is incredible, and it's unexplainable otherwise, because an egg will cook forever and then all of a sudden pop. One will pop very soon, but always I will get one after a hail, after an imparting of a blessing. It's almost like a punctuation where the goddess is so there with us in that moment that it's like, yes, That's beautiful. I love it. The people are doing what they need to do. They are upholding their end of the gift cycle. They are honoring us. And this brings us joy. Eggs will pop. And you can speak to any of my tribe members that have been a ritual with me where we use the eggs. They always pop in the coolest moments, and I can't help but chuckle when they do, and it fills me with this warm feeling of, yes, this has been accepted. Okay? So, I look for signs. That's what we're talking about here. This is sign interpretation with these things. You know, the birds, the winds, the eggs. Now let's talk a little bit about offerings to the Vetir. This is different because the offerings to the Vetir occur in the material world. Okay. Also with the gods and goddesses, there is a material world element of the animals serving as kind of an intermediary for the gods and goddesses in a lot of ways. That's why certain animals are associated with certain gods and goddesses. So if you leave an offering out for the Vetir and the local squirrels or rabbits or whatever come by and eat the offering, that's what you want. That's a sign that it's been accepted. That's a good, positive thing. An offering that's not accepted by the Vetir is something that they will just leave there and not touch. You want to know how an offering's not accepted? There you go. If you put an offering out that by all other means is something that the animal life would like and would enjoy, but they don't touch, something's amiss here. We've either gone awry with the offering or the offering's been tainted in some way. That something's not quite right here. And you're going to know relatively shortly afterwards with the interaction with the Vetir and with the spirits that something's not right. And we need to work to fix that relationship because either we missed the boat with the offering and we gave the wrong kind of offering and they were not pleased with it, or we gave an offering that, in the ritual itself became tainted with energies that they did not want a part of, or we have offended them to such an extent that this is insufficient to bridge the gap, and that we will have to keep trying and persevering until we rebuild that relationship. It all depends on the specific relationship with the Vetir that the individual has and what is being offered at the time. Similarly, when it comes to offerings to like the husvetir offerings, I usually will either take outside and lay for the animals of the land to take, because the husvetir is responsible for not just the house itself, but also the land that the property is on. But sometimes I will also give it to the animals of the home, the pets, because they are tied very closely with the husvetir, the house wight, the house spirit, or house god. Hofgod, Kofgod, different names that all mean basically the same thing, the spirit of the home. And that's just something that is an interesting thing, that the pets are tied to the husvetir in such a way that they can serve as a receptacle for the offering, because they are very closely tied together. And so these are ways that you can tell an offering has been accepted, because the animal life actually takes it. They actually accept it and abscond with it. If you give offering to the gods, we don't expect the gods to come down and snatch the offered bread. For instance, frefaxi. I like to give breads because it's a grain, early harvest, things like that. Sign of abundance, fullness. I like to give breads during frefaxi. And so we will frequently, and if you haven't watched my frefaxi video, I give an explanation on why we do frefaxi and all that stuff. But anyway, I like to give breads for frefaxi, and I don't expect Freyr himself to come down and snatch up the bread and carry it off to Asgard. That's not how that works. Nobody expects a physical presence of the gods and goddesses to literally reach out of the sky or through the ether, pick up the offering and carry it off. No, they don't actually interact that directly with us in most instances. Saved individuals such as Odin himself and sometimes Heimdall, who are said to have actually walked amongst Midgard, Thor himself in some instances, we see their presence because they are so grand and so much more than the world that we exist in. We perceive them through the world around us, because I don't think we're actually capable of visually and tactily experiencing the fullness of the sacred, simply the effect of the sacred on the profane from which we are crafted. We're going to see the Vetir come and accept the gift on Freyr's behalf. So yes, I know the field mice are going to come eat the bread. I know the crows are going to come pick away at my meat offering or whatever it is that I've left out for old. And I know the local coyotes are going to carry off the pig skin that we may have offered to Ullr. I know these things are going to be handled by the Vetir, but they're doing so as emissaries of the gods in that instance. So the same thing occurs with ancestors. I will give an offering out to my ancestors at the altar, and then I will transition that outside and allow the animals to take it away, because the animals cross that barrier of the spirit realm so easily, whereas we are more limited in that in many instances and can't as easily see across the veil. So these are oracular ways of interpreting signs, again with the oracular element. We're interpreting signs to see whether or not an offering has been accepted. So what a lot of it boils down to is you're also just gonna know. Okay? Deep in your gut, you're gonna get a feeling that yes, this has been accepted. You want to know what that feels like? I'll tell you what that feels like. When you, as a child, did something for a parent, or as an adult for a boss, whatever, and you know you did right, you know this is something that's going to please them, and you want to please them, you seek that approval. You just know when you've done something that's going to offend them or that is going to please them, what their reaction is going to be, and you feel it in your gut. You know, if you did something that you know your father is going to be so disappointed in you in, you feel it in your gut. When you know that you've done something your mom is going to be so proud of, you beam with it inside and you can't wait to tell her because you can tell, you know. And that's part of it. You just know. So when you do an offering and you feel that warmth, that surety, then you're on the right path, you know? And this is something that's built with time, guys. This is not something that you're going to go in as a newbie and just get immediately, okay? That's okay. It really is okay. Because here is how you can tell in the long run whether or not you're on the right course. And that is, things go better. If you are offering to the gods and goddesses for luck and you're able to do things, keep in mind luck is different within the heathen realm than it is with the more westernized society. When you're dealing with exchanging luck with the gods and goddesses, things will go better for you, or at least you'll make it. You'll do okay. Don't get me wrong, unless you're giving, I can't even say, it's a mixture of your orlog and the luck that you continue to build with the gods and goddesses and through your actions around you, that plays out in the world around you as far as whether or not things work out for you. If you've got strong orlog and you do good things to build your luck, then of course things are going to go better for you. But if you're keeping up the offerings and they're accepted and the gods and goddesses bless you with further luck, then you continue to do even better. That's the way those blessings work. And if you find yourself stripped of that luck, then the gods have not blessed you with it. And so over the long run, look to things that are in the realm of how the gods would bless you, In the olden days, it was easy because you give offering to Freyr, and then if you didn't get good crops in the harvest, then obviously he's not as happy with you and did not bestow upon you the luck of a good harvest. Similarly, if you gave offering to Odin during the winter nights area, and yet the wild hunt comes through and damages your home, with the wild winds and things like that, obviously wasn't as accepted, or you're not the gods are not smiling on you in that instance. So you have to learn to look around for the areas that the gods are going to bless you. They're not going to bless you with a new car. They're not going to come down and say, yes, you can have the new car. We're going to help you get your credit approved. That's not the way they do. All right. They will surround you with the energies that you need to focus and turn into good things. Until you can turn into confidence, you can turn into direct towards getting these goals done and handled, but they're not going to outrightly just bless you with a thing. Okay, so ultimately speaking, it's learning to look around for the effects of ritual and just that things are going well and that things are doing well. And then building the confidence and surety over time through your own experiences on what works and what doesn't. So you can read, you can look into, you can ask people their experiences, but ultimately speaking, it's going to come down to what works for you and what doesn't. And I know a lot of hardcore recons hate that, the whole do what feels right to you. And I agree with them. If you just do what feels right to you, then you're not really necessarily going to be sticking with heathenry per se, as far as historical aspects of heathenry. But you do need to work an element of that personal experience and personal insight into what you've learned and what you're utilizing and what you've picked up from other people. If you're just going through the motions of ritual without a deeper understanding or the intent that is necessary in it, or really getting why you're doing that particular ritual, then you're just going through the motions and they're going to be ineffectual. You're going to miss that connection with the Ovr that's necessary to build the connection with the gods and really make it work. Similarly, if you go through and you have all the right intentions but don't necessarily hit some of the key marks on what makes a ritual work and why, you can be hollering the right message, but if you're not hollering it down the right corridor or into the right phone line, it's not going to get where you want it to go. So it takes a balance of things. All one or the other, and it doesn't work. So that's why you have to learn through your own experiences what does and doesn't work as far as, the acceptance of an offering. You have to learn what the color blue looks like to you. You have to learn what an accepted offering feels like to you. If you're doing it on your own, then you've got a hard road to hoe, but I can't make that magically go away. You're just going to have to buckle down and deal with it. If you are doing it with someone who's more experienced, then talk to them. Learn from their experience. Figure out how they know that their ritual worked. What are their insights? But most importantly, if this person is a person you trust and believe actually knows what they're doing and is successful in their rituals, then when you are in the ritual with them that is said to be successful and an offering is accepted, pay attention to your own body. Pay attention to the world around you and take notes. Learn what your feelings are. Learn the sensations in your body. Learn from the signs in the world around you. And know that, all right, you are in a state of success. This is what a state of success feels like. Memorize it. Or at least learn some specific keys and tells. That's the most effective way to figure out whether or not an offering has been accepted. And it is the most accurate way to figure out whether you are being successful in your rituals. If you're on your own and you don't have that kind of support, that kind of help, then it's going to be a rough one. And then you'll end up with individuals that don't know how to sense those things because they're not tied into it. So they don't necessarily get the feeling. Or they're looking for a specific feeling that they've concocted in their heads and is absent from that particular ritual. Even though it's a successful ritual, they're looking for a key that's not there because they've based it on misconceived information or misinterpreted experiences from the past. So don't necessarily get discouraged if the people in your group say they didn't feel it. Some of them may just not be as attuned to the energies at play to see whether or not it did indeed succeed. So, all right. I've rambled on for longer than usual on this particular video because, like I said, the spiritual side of things are more difficult to tie down. It is a more involved process, and the esoteric woo-woo side of things is purely insight in a lot of ways. It's experiential. It's UPG, which is unverifiable personal gnosis. These are necessary parts of heathenry and the growth of heathenry, but they're more difficult to put into video because you're putting a piece of yourself out there. People can look at me and go, all right, this guy's a crackpot talking about, oh, it feels right and all this stuff. And I'm going to get some of that. It is what it is. People are who they are. And people that exist solely in the physical, pragmatic end of things are made uneasy by the esoteric, the unseen, the hudra, the hidden. And so you're going to get some of that. There's a reason that sorcerers and, the Vitki and the Seithkona and, the workers of the esoteric were more fringe individuals, because they exist kind of between that civilized part of society and that wild side of the spirit realm. So we'll explore some more of this in the future. We'll see how this goes over, and see whether or not this is something that you guys are actually interested in, or what. But that is it. That's my answer, my 40-minute long answer to how do I know my offering has been accepted. The short and simple is, you just know. The long, drawn-out version, well, you just saw. You can utilize tools such as divinatory tools, runes, tarot cards, whatever it may be. You can read signs, which is mostly what I do. Look to the animal life, look to the natural world around you, and look for the presence of the gods through the world around us. There's a gut feeling that goes along with it, and you just kind of know. So, there you go, guys. That's a delving into the spiritual side that you guys asked for. So let's see if we continue to go on this route. Now, if you guys liked what you saw today, please give it a like in the thumbs up down below. If you didn't like it, give it the thumbs down. To date, I only have one thumbs down, and that was on my soul preface video. So I'm sure I just jinxed myself, but that's how it is. Let me know whether or not you liked or disliked what you've got. Give me comments in the section below. The more you interact with things, the more you interact with my videos, the more they're going to show up in your feed. Okay, so interact with the videos, give it a thumbs up, subscribe to my channel, and ding the bell. We're going to run through the contact information real fast because I know I ramble on this part. Okay, so email. You can email me at esjerven@gmail.com. That's going to appear down here on the bottom somewhere. You can join in the conversation on Facebook at Word-Weaver Productions. Again, somewhere down here. And then you can follow me on Twitter at @E_Sjerven, at @E_Sjerven. Again, visual. And finally, you can give me feedback on Saraha at ericwordweaver.saraha.com, and down below. So please, guys, give me some feedback. Let me know what you think. Join in the Facebook conversation on Word-Weaver Productions. Jump in there and give me some feedback. Let me know what works for you. Let me know what interests you, and I will continue to build towards that. I've got 1,000 different ideas, and I've got a running list in my phone every time I have a crackpot idea that comes up, and I'm like, I could turn that into a video. And then I'll come back later and go, that's really deep. I don't know that I'm ready to do that just yet. So, to a certain extent, I have been building on some core element things, some Heathenry 101 kind of things, to establish a common ground with you guys, so you understand my worldview a bit, you understand where I'm coming from, and establish some rapport before delving off into some of the crazy stuff, some of the woo-woo stuff. Because if you delve right off into that, people will write you off altogether. So anyway, give me feedback, let me know what you think, and we'll go from there. Thank you, guys. Hail, and may your ancestors smile on you.